Hello, everyone, and welcome to my latest podcast. My name's Emma, and this is where I share everything that I've been knitting and crocheting lately. And I'm feeling a little bit rusty today because it has been a very long time. The last time I filmed podcast style episode was back in October, I believe, and I didn't intend to leave it quite so long as this. I ended 2025 feeling quite burnt out. I just needed a good break, I think. I took on quite a lot of projects last year, a lot in terms of collaborations and things like that. I was knitting and crocheting pretty much non-stop all of the time, and towards the end of the year I started getting quite a lot of hand pain and things, so I took a break, and then I had all intentions of filming an episode last month, but unfortunately my little Oscar passed away unexpectedly. It wasn't completely unexpectedly. He had been poorly. He'd been at the vets around Christmas time and things like that. But it was sudden. Yeah, and I've been too sad. I've been too sad to film anything. I'm okay. We're all okay. I just haven't felt able to sit down in front of a camera and sort of put my happy, smiley, chirpy face on until today. So yeah, here we are. But here I am. I am back. And I hope you're all doing very well. And I hope you had. It feels really silly saying this now because it's like March, nearly the end of March. But I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and a happy New Year, and Valentine's Day and everything else that's happened in between. Okay, let's get started. I am wearing my finished storm sweater. I did go back and have a quick look at the last episode that I filmed to see exactly what I was up to and things like that. And this was in progress back then. So I'm very pleased to say that it's finished. So, I have still been knitting and things behind the scenes, just not as much. I'm going to stand up very inelegantly so that you can have a little look at how it fits and things, and then I'll sit back down and we'll have a chat about it. Okay, let me stand up. So as you can see, it is quite oversized, but I think it is just on the nice side of oversized. I wouldn't want it to be any bigger. I'll put my hands up like this, you can kind of see the fit of it and all the lovely patterns on it and things like that. And you can see the sleeves are pretty long. It's not the most practical. Hang on, let me sit back down. It is not necessarily the most practical thing to wear in terms of cleaning up, washing the pots, things like that. Things that I tend to spend a lot of my time doing because the sleeves do kind of get in the way. It's the type of sweater where if you roll your sleeves up, they do just fall back down. But I love it. I really, really love it. I'm so happy with it. The only thing that I don't like is the colour, because this was yarn that was repurposed from another project actually. This started out as what was it? It was another Petite Knit pattern, the Ingrid sweater, I think. It's her other pattern that's actually very similar to this, in that it's got kind of the horizontal stripes and then the different patterns in each band. But it had like mock cables and things like that. Whereas this one is just knits and pearls. All of the patterns are made up just from knits and pearls. So it's a lot simpler, I think. It was a lot more enjoyable to knit as well. I use Drops Lima. I don't know the name of the shade, but the code for it is 9025. I think it's something like pale grey, possibly, something like that. But yeah, I'll pop those details down in the description box. And I made a size extra small, so it's still, as you can see, it's still worked up pretty big. It is incredibly warm and cozy. We went away on holiday to Scotland in February, and it was so cold. We were right on the coast. very exposed, very windy, and I wore this sweater a lot and I was really warm and cozy in it. It is really, really lovely. The yeah, that's what else I was going to say. The only other thing with it is this yarn is lovely and soft, but it does pill something terrible. I don't know if you can see, I was going to defuzz it before I filmed this morning, but then I thought perhaps I could show you. See, I don't know if you can see, or you can kind of see there's little bits there. I don't know if it's just because it's so oversized and it kind of rubs against everything, but yeah, I mean, I only finished this. I finished it right at the end of last year, like something like the 28th of December to get it off the list, ready for the new year. And in that time, I've had to defuzz it loads, which is not, it's not a problem. It's just, it can be a bit of a pain. Sometimes it looks a bit scruffy. And I was thinking actually about some of my other sweaters. I think my best ever sweater that I've made in terms of pilling and things is my no frills sweater. And I made that. I don't like the colour of that one so much now. It's quite pink and it's not a shade that I would reach for now, but at the time I really loved it. I've worn it to death, and I made that using one strand of Drops Flora and one strand of Drops Kid Silk held together, and I have never had to defuzz that, not once, and it still looks pristine. So I keep thinking I need to make another sweater using that same yarn combination. Actually, just not in that same shade. So that's what I'm wearing. And I also have a finished object to show you. Now it's kind of a finished object and new project rolled into one because you won't have seen these. I have got a finished pair of socks, and this is my first finished pair of socks since the last ones that I showed you back in October. And they're pretty, aren't they? I really like the colours. I made these using a sock set from Dandelion and Dogwood. Let me bring it a little bit closer. So at Christmas time, my mum asked me for ideas of what she could get me. I always say yarn, obviously. But instead of choosing a skein, all I did was said have a look on the Dandelion and Dogwood website because they always do a Christmas update and they always have gorgeous colours. And I said just pick any. I like them all. Pick any that you like the look of. So she got me this one. I think it's called Lustreware. That's what it says on the label. That's showing us backwards for me on the screen, but hopefully it's not for you. And you would think I would know by now whether it shows the right way around or not, but I'm sorry, but I don't. So hopefully that was the right way around. And this is the main skein. I do have a photo as well of what it looked like when it was in the skein before I wound it. I will pop that on. I had to edit it quite a bit. So my mum ordered this yarn for me and got it sent to her house. And when it came, it was wrapped up in tissue paper. So she hadn't actually seen it in real life. She just kept it wrapped in that tissue paper when she then wrapped it up again for me. So she asked me to send her a photo, but it was so dark. The lighting's terrible in December and things, isn't it? So I did have to edit it a little bit to try and make it look accurate, but yeah, so hopefully it doesn't look too kind of out there. And that came with 2 mini skeins, which are these. So it's really lovely yarn. And as you can see, I use the green for the top and then the purple for the toes. I was going to be a bit crazy and swap them around for the second sock and do the purple at the top and the green for the toe, but just no, I don't know, a little bit too crazy for me that. So I ended up just doing them matching, but they look really good on screen. I'm really happy with them. The Last pair of socks that I made was using some yarn from the Camel's yarn, and I wasn't happy with those. My sock tension has just been terrible lately, which is one of the reasons why I took a break. I was having the hand pain, like I said. I think my hands were just tired, and socks especially are knit on, such a small gauge. Those stitches are really tiny, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So the last pair of socks I made, they're lovely. The yarn is lovely, but my tension's just terrible, and they're just kind of really slack and baggy. And I'm really, really pleased because this is the first pair that I've made after having that break, and my tension is perfect again. Um, yeah, they're lovely, lovely, neat, tight stitches. They're going to fit perfectly. The thing is with my other pairs of socks that I made before these, when my tension's a little bit like that and then they end up a bit big and baggy, I tend not to wear them because they slide around my feet and things when I've got shoes on. They're just not that they're not that comfortable. I like them to be nice and snug. So hopefully that is my tension sorted out now and I can knit a few more pairs. So I got that lovely sock set. And then because I'm spoiled, my mum also got me another sock set, which I've not used yet, but it's also from Dandelion Dogwood. And it is called Iced Cinnamon Stars. And this is just a single skein, obviously, as you can see. It doesn't come with, look at that. It doesn't come with any minis or anything, but it's so pretty. I think I might make a pair of Hermione's Everyday Socks with this skein. The next pair of socks that I'm going to cast on is going to be the Humblebee socks because they have been on my list for far too long. And I really, really want to make those. I think they're nice spring socks to make as well, aren't they? Because they've got the bumblebees on them. So yeah, they'll be quite appropriate. One of the things that I'm trying to do this year actually is not save the best till last. I've got quite the yarn stash now, and as you can probably see behind me, it's incredibly messy. I need to have a good organise in that cupboard. And I always have this feeling that I need to use up the oldest or, get the ones used up that I'm not that keen on first of all and save the ones that I really like till last. And I am not doing that anymore, which is why I cast on that yarn that I got for Christmas straight away and ignored all the other skeins that have been waiting for me. Yeah, I'm not going to save the best till last anymore. I'm going to knit my favourites first, I think. I think that's a much better approach. Something else I've been trying to do is have less projects just in general. I think that was part of the problem last year. I just had so many projects and I just felt overwhelmed. I got caught up a little bit in this feeling that I had to be constantly making content and constantly producing things. And yeah, I got a bit caught up in that. And I'm trying to have less projects this year so that I can concentrate on the ones that I've got. So I've only got 3 projects at the moment, which is, it's not a lot for me. And one of them is a very long-term project. And if you follow me on Instagram, I'm on there as MSC Makes as well. You will have seen this one because I've been posting it a lot. Let me get it out of the yarn bowl. I am making a Northeasterly blanket. And I've done 4 full columns now. It looks fab on the screen. I needed a way to use up all of my scraps. So last year I made another moss stitch blanket to use up all of my mini skeins and things like that. Even though I made that blanket and it was fairly huge, I still ended up with lots of scraps that needed using. I'm not going to hold the bowl up because they always just end up sliding out. But I'm going to put a picture on so that you can see what I've got. In fact, I'll put 2 pictures on. I'll put a picture on showing you how it looked when I started this blanket, and then I'll pop a picture in to show you how it looks now, and then you should hopefully notice the difference and see how much I've used up. The good thing about this blanket is that you can just knit each bit, like each section, as long as you want until you've used up until you I was just checking that my microphone's connected, then I had a really bad feeling that my mic wasn't connected, but I think we're good. The good thing with this blanket is that you can just knit until you use up however much yarn you've got. So you'll see I've got some really big sections here, and then I've got some really small sections as well. The smallest section I've got, which irritates me a little bit, is this one at the top here. I just had to do 2 rows before I could cast that off. And yeah, so the next thing I need to do is start my next column. So you start by knitting just this first column on its own, and then you join the others as you go. At one point, I did have 3 of the columns kind of on hold on scrap yarn so that I could continue working outwards. That wasn't as pleasant to work with. I just had too many ends and things dangling down and getting in the way everywhere. So I have concentrated recently on getting all those 4 columns finished. Yeah, now I'm ready to start column number 5. I did wear this and I've used about 300 grams of yarn, which is, it's not a lot. Actually, it might be 150. I'll weigh it again and I'll pop it on the screen. So it's going to end up pretty big, but that's a project that, it doesn't necessarily have an end date or a deadline or anything like that. I'm happy for that just to keep going. I did go through a phase where I tried to add one skein every day, but you'll be surprised at how long it takes just to add one ball of yarn. Some of the yarn I've got is that big. Sorry, I've got my microphone on the table and I keep knocking it. And some of it is that big. So I've got quite a discrepancy. But I'm enjoying that, and it's been nice. I say this every year, but it's been nice to have something bright and colourful to work on over winter and when it's been so dull outside. We've had a few sunny days recently, and that's been lovely. Everything's better when the sun's out, I think. Do you agree? At the moment, I have got 2 sweaters on the needles, and they're both kind of at a similar stage. I'll talk about them from oldest to newest. So the oldest one that's been on the needles the longest is my Esther Sweater, and this is excuse me, this is a pattern by Petite Knit. And the yarn that I'm using for this, I actually intended to use for a storm sweater, and then everything kind of got messed up because I ended up frogging my Ingrid, which I then used to make a storm sweater. So then I needed another pattern to make with this yarn. I'm using Sandnes Garn Gynt, and I'm holding that together with some Tynn silk mohair. I'll pop all of the yarn details in the description box. I hoped to have this finished before we went on our trip to Scotland in February. That didn't happen, and I didn't want to stress myself out. But it's been quite a nice project. I think it's one that's going to look better after blocking. I've tried it on, and it seems to fit well. I am slightly concerned about the shoulders. If I bring it closer, I don't know if you can see, but this line or this seam here on the shoulders it's quite tight, and apparently I think that's a common problem. This is the area where you make the increases. So you start off with the back panel and you make the increases along the shoulder here before then picking them up and working the front and then joining everything together. And yeah, that just seems to have worked up pretty tight, and I'm slightly worried that might mean that the sleeves sit a bit funny, but I've looked at pattern photos and it does seem to pull up ever so slightly on the shoulder, so I'm hoping that that's how it's meant to be. What else have I got to say about this? It's a charted pattern, and once I got into it, it was okay. It's quite intuitive, and you do get a hang of the pattern. It did take me a while, but it's not like an easy, mindless pattern. And I don't know if you remember from last year, but I made a Moby sweater for my husband Luke, which I finished. That all went okay. And then I made this, and then I started the Esther sweater. So I've had kind of like a succession of patterns that need concentration. And I finished the body, I did the neck, and I just couldn't face doing the sleeves. And then we were going away to Scotland, and I wanted a project to take with me, but because I don't have a great many projects on the needles at the moment, I didn't have a lot to choose from. So I did decide to cast on something new, which brings me to the other sweater that I've got on my needles, which is the Lakes Pullover by Ozetta. And I started this because I wanted just something nice and simple to work on. I really, really fancied just making a sweater that was pretty much just stockinette, and where you get past the increases and things like that, and you can just relax and knit. I had images of me sitting by the log fire and things, just knitting away with a nice glass of wine. So I happened to have some yarn in stash, and I'd actually got this yarn for a blanket design, but that didn't work out. So I had a huge quantity of this yarn. It's Drops yarn, but I can't remember what it is. It's one of the alpacas. Let me have a look. So I've got everything written down in here. Lakes Pullover, Drops Nepal, and the colour is Light Beige Mix, which is 0206. I started this on I did actually start this on the day that we went away. It was my car knitting project. And I'm going to hold it up to show you where I'm up to, but you can see that it is at pretty much the same stage. I've just started this sleeve yesterday. I'm sorry if you can hear the needles clanging about. The construction of this sweater is not like any that I've done before. So it's like a saddle shoulder. You can see you've got these big panels here, and these are the parts that you cast on. So all in the journey up to Scotland, I made these two little rectangles, and then you pick up stitches along one side and start knitting the back. And then once you've done that, you pick up stitches along the front and do that, and then join them together. So far that's pretty much, like other saddle shoulders. The difference with this one is that you leave the stitches live. So they're currently on hold on this side because I've not started that sleeve yet. And then what you do is when you come to pick up the sleeve, you pick up the stitches here, and then you put these live ones back on the needle, and then pick up the other stitches along this side. So you get this really nice detailing where this panel from the saddle shoulder just kind of joins seamlessly, into the sleeve. It's looking a little bit funky here. I'm really not sure what I've done. I'm hoping that that's going to block out because it feels a bit weird, but so far, it's been pretty simple. And the other thing that I liked about this sweater is that when you get to the ribbing at the bottom, you don't actually need to change needles. You just continue into the same needle size. So that was easy. Didn't need to worry about that or anything. The neckline, I have basically just kind of done my own. So it's a folded collar. In the pattern, it tells you to knit something like 12 centimeters and then just fold it over and join it. And whenever I've done folded collars, you kind of knit half of it and then done like 3 rows of double knitting, which then curves it over, and then you continue knitting it and then join it on. So that's what I did basically. I kind of ignored the pattern, and I think dropping things. I basically knit for, I think today it was about 5 centimeters, and then did my 3 rows of double knitting, and then knit another 5 centimeters minus 1 row, and then for that final row I joined it to the base, so it folded over. And yeah, I'm happy with that. Looks like it has plenty of stretch. I wasn't sure how it would work without the double knitting, actually, because I've never done that, so I just decided to stick with what I knew. It's been a lovely project. I think that one's probably going to be finished before my Esther sweater, because I don't know if I have the brain power for that at the moment. I've forgotten the pattern for the Esther sweater. I'm going to have to have another read. I've no idea what size I'm making for for the Lakes pullover. I'm having to wing it a little bit. So I mentioned that we had a log burner in the it was a converted barn that we stayed in London, in Scotland. It was gorgeous. And we've stayed in places before with log burners, and we've always used those you know, there's like starter lighter things where it's like little blocks soaked in fuel, and they didn't have those. It was like the proper old-fashioned kind where you use newspaper and kindling, and we ran out of newspaper, and we were kind of looking around for things that we could burn. And I was like, oh well, you know, I've progressed so far in this knitting pattern. I don't need these pages, because it was quite a few pages. So Luke burnt them on the fire to get the fire going. But now I've no idea what size I made, because I'd made a note of all of that on the pattern at the beginning. So I'm kind of just winging it. I'm pretty sure I did the second size. So yeah, I've got 2 sweaters on the needles that are probably going to be finished just in time for the nice warm weather, and which I always seem to do. So they'll probably be going away, but at least I'll have 2 nice new jumpers to wear, won't I? For when the weather comes in cold back end of the year. So that is all of my projects that I have at the moment. I have some other news to share. So I am back filming tutorials again. I posted a tutorial last week for the sweet pea stitch, which is, it's like a variation on the shell stitch. So I've got this swatch that I made in variegated yarn, and then I made another just in plain yarn, and it is really pretty. I think this would make a beautiful blanket or a shawl or anything like that, really. So it's really nice, and it's worked over a 1 row repeat, which is my favourite because it requires like 0 brain power. I'm making myself sound like I'm really lazy and really stupid. But you know, it's just nice to have a project sometimes that you don't need to think. And then I have my other projects that require a bit of brain power, and they're like a separate thing. So I've got those. I've got some more tutorials planned. The next one is probably going to be for a shell stitch, like a really easy shell stitch that is worked over a 1 row repeat as well, because some of the shell stitches that I've done in the past have been worked over 4 rows. So I'll be posting that. I've got another one planned about joining granny squares and things, so you should start seeing more tutorials popping up lately. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is my hand-dyed yarn. So when my hands were hurting and things, and I took a little bit of a break from knitting and crocheting, I still wanted to do, something creative and something yarny, something related. So I've been busy dyeing some wool, and I've got some of them here. They've all been dyed, swatched. I washed them because I was just incredibly paranoid that all the colour would run out or just disappear in the wash, but they haven't, so that's good. Let me show you a selection of just some of my favourites. I've got this one. I don't have names for them or anything yet. I really like these ones. And I am planning to list some of these in my Etsy shop soon. So I will have some mini skein sets. I'm going to pick out my 5 favourites. I won't show you all of them. I'm going to pick out my 5 favourites to make into mini skein sets. There'll be sock sets, and then I'm going to dye a few skeins. There won't be loads and loads, just odd skeins here and there as I dye them. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that. So if you would be interested in those, then make sure you signed up for my newsletter. I will pop the details of how to do that in the description box below for you as well, because newsletter subscribers will get first dibs on everything. They'll, I'll be letting them know once the yarn's available in the shop, and they'll be getting a discount code as well. And that's only for newsletter subscribers. They will only be shipping to the UK at first, and then I will be looking to expand that. But yeah, baby steps. And yeah, that's it. So it's been really nice sitting down and chatting. Thank you for bearing with me, because like I say, I am quite out of practice, and I will be back again soon, maybe in a month's time. So I always say this, but definitely we'll be back soon. I won't leave it as long this time. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you've watched this far, I've seen people do this, then leave me a sunshine emoji in the comments to let me know that you got this far, because could do with a nice bit of weather. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye.